And this is like, what? Hold on. This doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of different options with Eldritch Adapt that we could really play with and expand some beastly abilities. I'm Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. Alright, so what do we got today?
We're back with another best 5 feats for subclasses. This time we're going to talk about Circle of the Moon Druid.
Yeah, we're going to see what feats you can use to activate your beast mode. So I guess one of the things we have to look at is what are some of the key factors to being a Circle of the Moon Druid, and how's our feat selection going to affect that?
Well, I feel of the, Druid subclasses, Circle of the Moon Druid seems to be more activated towards being in your beast shape, in your wild shape, if you will, and, therefore taking selections that are a little bit more combat heavy that you can use as your beast, I feel is a little more appropriate.
I wouldn't say it seems like. I would say it absolutely is, because all of your subclass features are based around wild shaping and shape changing. It's only until you hit your final feature do I think you get one that isn't directly like, here's something that happens when you wild shape. But before we jump into the breakdown of what our top 5 feats are, we would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors of this video, Hit Points Press and their Tales of Humblewood.
So Humblewood Tales is a 5e adventure book featuring expanded lore from the everyday happenings and events around the mystical Tree City, Alderheart. With over 200 pages, the book has everything you need to play, including pre-made characters, a bestiary, and more.
It's time to gather your party and embark on 5 incredible Humblewood adventures for levels 3 through 8. There's going to be a link up here in one of these cards, as well as in the description below. Go check out Humblewood, Tales of Humblewood. And with that, let's jump into the content.
All right, so the first feat we have is going to be Eldritch Adapt. And this is like, what? Hold on. This doesn't make any sense. But there's a lot of different options with Eldritch Adapt that we could really play with and expand some beastly abilities.
Yeah, so Eldritch Adapt has a couple of prereqs. You either have to be a warlock or have the spellcasting ability. We're a druid, we cast spells, so check, we've got that one taken care of.
Indeed. So within that, we have some choices to make. What would we take with that? So first off, Armor of Shadows. This is going to boost the armor class for our beast. So this is definitely a good one.
Yeah, it allows you to cast Mage Armor at will, and it's not a concentration spell, so you would be able to just cast Mage Armor and then Wild Shape, and you're gonna, I was looking through the different Beast Armor class, generally at a minimum it increases it by 1, but most of the times it's like 2 or 3 of an increase, and one of the weaknesses of being a Druid Wild Shaping is Beasts tend to have really lousy armor classes.
Indeed. Yeah, that is a very sore spot, and I've seen it across numerous characters over the years of playing 5e.
Next up is Devil Sight. Devil Sight is just very useful. It allows you to see in darkness and magical darkness up to 120 feet as if it was just regular. So it just gives you better visual acuity and it enhances your senses. That as a beast you probably already have enhanced senses.
So next up within that sub-selection, Eldritch Mind. This is going to give you advantage on your con saving throws to keep your concentration going. And let's face it, if you are a druid, you've got access to spells, you're probably going to cast some stuff on yourself before you wild shape to boost that beastly ability. So why not take that advantage?
Yeah, I will say, normally I would say Warcaster is a much better feat. But as a beast, you're not going to get to use those other abilities, and it's not going to matter. So you can just cut that out and go right to this, or you could go with Warcaster. They're gonna serve the same function. But one of my favorite things to do as a Circle of the Moon Druid was to summon as many wolves as I can and turn into a dire wolf and fight with my pack.
It's definitely a lot of fun to play with.
And then finally, we have Fiendish Vigor. It's a spell that you can cast that is not a concentration spell. It gives you temporary hit points. It's super useful. I think all of these work really well. Of these, Shadow of Armors to me would be my top pick. Normally, I don't like that one for Warlocks just because I feel like you're just better off wearing armor and instead of wasting an invocation on it. But in this case, it's much harder to actually wear armor, and it's far more useful.
I have to agree with you. So next one, we're going to go to Wear.
Next up, we've got Mobile. Mobile is awesome because, one, it increases your speed by 10. just your speed. It doesn't say your walking speed. It doesn't differentiate. So no matter what mode of speed you have, flying, climbing, burrowing, it would increase it by 10 technically. So that's going to affect all of your wild shapes. You can ignore difficult terrain when you take the dash action. And if you attack things, you can then move away from them without drawing attacks of opportunity. See aforementioned low armor class, and not being there is a great way to preserve your hit points as your wild shape.
I would completely agree. You know, mobile is a really great feat for those things, and thus even better for this particular style of druid. So next up is going to be resilient, and for the same kind of things that we talked about with the Eldritch Mind, we're looking at specifically to take this towards Constitution so that we have proficiency and therefore getting better on our concentration checks to be able to keep those great spells going, whether it be a buff on yourself or whether it be the pack that you're rolling with that you summoned.
Yeah, I mean, normally with the Circle of the Moon Druid, we're not really worrying about hit points because we just strap on basically temporary hit points every time we wild shape, and we get plenty of those. But you know, if you want to be able to cast the spell and hold on to it in your wild shape, you know, that part can be a little tricky, especially with a low armor class and you're constantly getting hit and having to make those checks. You know, having a Constitution be one of your good saving throws is going to be super useful. Next up, we've got Telekinetic. Telekinetic is another half feat. And the great thing about Telekinetic is you get Mage Hand as a spell that requires 0 components. That means you could literally Mage Hand things in your beast form. Mm-hmm. There's nothing to keep you from doing it. And as a bonus action, you can also shove things around, which generally as a beast, I don't think a lot of times you have opportunities to use your bonus action. So this would give you something to do.
Yeah, I think it's a really great one. And it kind of pairs well with the Telepathic, which is our last and final feat for this one. And let's face it, a big issue of if you're going to walk around as an animal all the time is how do you communicate with your party? It's like, okay, you can hear them, you can understand them, but you can't communicate back unless you happen to be telepathic. So going into this one, you know, this is almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, this might be my top pick. 1 half spell, awesome. Or 1 half feat, awesome. So you're going to get to increase your wisdom score anyway. 2, you get to communicate with other creatures while you're wild shaped. And 3, you're going to get detect thoughts, I believe, is the spell that they get. And no components to cast. Again, we're talking about spell casting in our wild shape form, which is normally not allowed.
Yeah. So, like, you know, if you got a naturey person in the party, you could be like, oh, yeah, the wolf that's traveling with, you know, I'm their animal companion, and they won't suspect you of doing anything. And meanwhile, like, probe your thoughts.
There's a lot of great things you can do with Circle of the Moon, but the question is, what do you guys think? What kind of feats would you take? Let us know down in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Go ahead and click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
Quick reminder, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we drop new videos here on the channel, so come on back. But you can't wait till then. No worries, we got you covered. Check out this card up here. What can you do when you wild shape as a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons Druid?
So until next time,
stay nerdy.